Well, thanks everyone for joining us today. I am Amy Work, Director of Communication and Member Programs at the Indiana Association of Soil and Water Conservation Districts. This is our second of 5 sessions in a series of trainings about the online platform Canva. Thanks so much for joining us. The first session of this series was held on June 2nd, and the recording of that session is posted on the IASWCD website. I will put a link to that page in the chat just in case anyone needs it. We will be recording, as we are this one, all of the sessions, and then I will get those posted a day or two after each one. So just know they're there to go back and refer to, or to recommend to anyone you think might want that. A little housekeeping as far as questions go. Our presenter is going to go through her slides and presentation today. And then as you think of questions, feel free to go ahead and type those in the chat. We are going to address questions more closer to the end of the presentation today. And we will also be recording those as well. So just know you can use that chat box and ask your questions. And feel free to comment in there. I want to jump right in and give today's presenter plenty of time, so let me introduce her to you. Please join me in welcoming Brea Persing. Brea is a native Hoosier with a degree in visual communication, which she says is basically graphic design. And she brings more than 20 years of design experience spanning the nonprofit, food, travel, and freelance sectors. She currently serves with the Elkhart County Soil and Water Conservation District in Indiana after previously working in conservation in Michigan. Beyond her creative talents, Brea has studied 4 languages, speaks Italian, knows a bit of Spanish, has lived overseas, and enjoys participating in roller derby in her spare time. We're very grateful to have her today to share her expertise with us. So please join me in welcoming her. And Brea, thank you so much for taking the time to help us learn more about design and Canva.
You're welcome. Thank you, Amy, for having me on here. So this is going to be a packed session. So thank you, everybody, for joining us, and strap in your boots because it's gonna go fast. But again, it's going to be recorded, so you're good. So today we're going to talk about graphic design basics, and that we're going to integrate that in with Canva. But we just really wanted you to understand the basics of graphic design so that it can help you as you're creating stuff for your districts, organizations, all of that. So the first thing we're actually going to talk about is brand identity in Canva. So hopefully since the last session, you actually opened up Canva, created an account, and did all of that. And so we want to talk about the brand identity. If you don't know what branding is your logo. It's the identity that you have for your organization. So for SWCDs, it's that logo and all of that, or any other icons that go along with that. So in Canva, if you've opened it up, which I hope you have, you will see over here on this left side all of these different options. Well, first we're going to go to that brand right there so that we can start that up. So one of the benefits of branding, putting a brand identity together, it's a little bit of work up front, but it's really beneficial. So especially if you created a Teams account for your organization, what you put in the brand identity goes out to everybody that has access to Canva on your teams. That means all the logos, everything. And then if you have a premium, which in order to access the brand identity, you'd have to be on a premium account rather than a free account. Then if you share an account within your office, then everything's organized and it's all there for people. So you're not having to email back and forth, different files, different logo, all of that kind of stuff is all there. So we're going to go to brand. And this is what you'll see when you open up Brand Kit, right? You're going to see over here on the left, templates, all that kind of stuff, guidelines, but you're going to see logos, colors, fonts, all of that. And these are things your organization may or may not utilize, and that's okay. But first thing we're going to start with is your logo, because we all have logos, right? We've got different varieties of the logos. We got black and white, and all of that. So we're going to go on logos. And what we're going to do is we're going to hit this plus button. You can also go down here and click the add brand assets. It's going to do the same thing. So in case you're not aware, guidelines, some organizations have branding guidelines. What that means is it's documents that they send around that says how you can use their logo, where you can use it. So for some of them, how far away your logo has to be from different like items and that kind of stuff. So if you had a larger organization and you had branding guidelines, that's where you would put that in here. So if you were in teams, other people could read those guidelines and you could update them really easy. Brand template is just templates that you create for your branding. So if you're creating certain advertisements and people are working on stuff, you can put templates in there and they can use it really easily. But for this sake, we're just going to make it easy. We're just going to click this upload files button right here. And then from there, what you do is you're going to go and you're going to, on your computer, find the logos that you want to upload. And then they're all here in one. So we did this for ISWCD. They have their horizontal version. They've got the vertical version. And they have just the branding icon right here. Generally, the other things that I would do is I would add in a full black version and then a full white version with a transparent background. But you can see this one doesn't have a transparent background. This one does, which in premium doesn't really matter so much because you can do a background remover and it makes it really easy. So from there, we're going to put in our colors, organizational colors, right? Because in this logo, IASWCD uses the blue, the green, and the brown. And there may be other colors that they use, but we just stuck with these. So in doing that, when you click on colors, it's going to bring up this screen. It's going to pull the colors from the logos that you put up. Now, some of these colors are slightly varying. And so I tend to not keep what are called palettes. So that's what it shows, these palettes right here under colors. So these are from the different logos. So you have an option to keep them or remove them. I tend to remove them and I create my own because I want to make sure that it's the exact right color. So in order to do that, I removed all of them. You can either click on this add new or you can click this little button right here to add your color. And then you go here, click add new. And then what you do is you put in that hex code. So generally all colors have what's called a hex code. This is what you use for online stuff, but you type that number in here with that pound symbol, or if you're a millennial, hashtag, and then the numbers, right? And then if you're doing some of your stuff for print and you know that CMYK number, you can add that, oops, right down there where it says add CMYK. And you can put in those numbers. So we're going to put that in. But if you notice it says untitled color up here, you click on that, you can click that edit button and then go ahead and you can name it. So everybody knows exactly what that is. So I went ahead and I added all of them. So this is what it looks like for that color palette. And if you want to, say you have multiple color palettes, right? You have different logos that you deal with. You can rename them right here. So then from there, we're going to go to icons. This could be business icons. I tend to like to use this for social media icons. So ISWCD is on LinkedIn and Facebook. And so I went ahead and I created icons. You click that button, same as the uploads others. And I created icons for LinkedIn and Facebook in all of the colors, all of their like regular branding colors, plus the black and the white, and uploaded them. This allows it to where when you're putting this stuff on documentation or advertisements, whatever it is, you have succinct looking icons that you can use throughout, because unfortunately on Canva, you don't necessarily have icons for Facebook, for LinkedIn, for Instagram, or any of those that look identical or close to each other. So if you're able to create some and then upload them to create consistency for the brand, that's great. If not, that's all right. And so from here, right, we said that there were all of these other ones. Some of them you might not use. The great thing is you can go to these three dots over here. You can click on that and you can delete the ones that you're not going to use. Or you can rename it if you want it to be something different and put different assets in there. This is great. So then you don't have a cluttered up dashboard for your brand identity when you're sharing it between teams or anything like that. So that is an option. So here's a really cool thing with Brand Kit though. So here's how you can go ahead and you can add additional layers here. So you click this plus button, and then asset categories, these other ones like logos, colors, fonts, whatever. But say you want to you have an event coming up, right? And so for instance, at Elkhart County, we have Pay Dirt coming up. And so if I wanted to I could create a whole different brand kit for that if I wanted, or because it's just under our one, I could create a section. So for ISWCD, we go through and I added a section that adds this bold up over here. And what that does is it creates a whole nother section of items that go underneath that, right? You can rename this, which I created a few of them. And then under that, I added an asset category. That's these, where I made a category that said partners and sponsors, and I just did in-kind partners, federal partners, and then I actually created another one called Indiana Conservation Partners. And what that does is I added an asset category underneath there, and I added all of the conservation partner logos that ISWCD has. And there are all of the logos under Indiana Conservation Partners. And this is why this is important. Because you can keep all of your logos up to date really easily. Anybody can have access to them, and you don't have to go back in your computer every time you're working on a project and try and find these, or go to your upload section of Canva and try and search for them. They're all right there, and they're there for anybody in your team, which is really, really helpful. So again, okay, cool. But how do I use it? So here's how you're going to use it. We're going to show you this. So I went ahead. I'm not going to show you the steps in creating the whole stuff, but I am going to do this. So you're in a Canva project, right? And I wanted to create like a 4x6 card that ISWCD was going to put at a table, right? To thank their conservation partners. They're not actually doing this, but I made it up. So, right, we're going to click on the brand. And from there, and like I said here, this little thing means that it's a premium thing, so you can only have it if you're on premium. And then when you click on brand, it brings this up, and you want to make sure that you're on the right brand kit. So you can actually rename that where it says brand kit, which I probably should have done and I didn't. My apologies. So like for your Read-a-Text, who have multiple different conservation districts under them, they can have a brand kit for each SWCD that they help, and keep everything organized underneath that. So when they travel or they do different things, they have everything together, right? But you make sure that you're on the correct brand kit that you want. And then we go to logos, right? So here are the logos that we had put in earlier. So we're going to click on one of those logos, boom, right there, it's in the middle. But here's a problem, and this is what a lot of us have. You can't see it, right? It doesn't work with the background, but that's the background you want to have. Well, there are multiple different solutions you can have, but here are two main ones that we're going to talk about and how to showcase logos, because that's a big part that I think some people struggle with is their logos. They kind of fall through the cracks. So the first one is we're going to create a background specifically on the logo. So the first thing that we would do is we'd go up here to elements, and we would click shapes. Now, the great thing about Canva is it has a lot of shape options. You can go on any of these ones. You can click see all. The one thing to remember is your squares can turn into rectangles. Your circles can turn into ovals. So you're not stuck on just that specific, on that specific shape. They can transform and adjust. So for this one, I did a square with rounded corners, right? And it pops up like this right in the middle of the screen. So what we do, well, we don't want it to be brown, right? So we go up and we click on this button right up here in the little menu. Click on that, and then this shows up. We have the colors that are in here, and I had switched over to our SWCD platform. This, you can show like see the different branding that we have in there, right? And so we're going to change the color. So we changed it to white. Now, the cool thing is on these one up here, if you put your mouse over it and you let your mouse hover, you can see what that hex code is in that white to make sure that you're using the consistent colors throughout if you have a design that has multiple colors and you want to make sure that you have like the same red on it or that kind of stuff. So you can double check that. And you can also adjust if you want something other than white or these colors that are up here. You can click this plus sign and you can adjust this to anywhere that you want the colors or put in the hex code. Another cool thing is you see this little dropper that's right here. If you have, say, a photo in the background and you want a specific color that's in that photo, you can click this dropper and put it over on the spot in that photo and it'll bring up that color. And then you can use that color. So we chose white, making it easy, right? And so here's the deal, right? That's small. We need to make it bigger. You have two different spots. You've got these corner options. So the corner options adjust both of these sides. And so say I wanted to make this into a rectangle or whatever, I could just adjust that size and not hit anything. However, if you want it to stay a square, you would hold down the shift button on your computer and then have your mouse on the corner of this edge and click on it. And then you can adjust it to be a square and be bigger. Or you have this side one right here, this one, and it will adjust the side of it and just that side of it. So it's the same on any edge. Now, this is the same for text boxes too, where you can adjust for the text to be wider or to be longer. But the difference with text, though, is just one of those side things. If you want to make all of your text bigger, that's where you would use these corner ones and you don't have to use shift. So shapes are slightly different than text, but you learn that as you play with it, right? So what we're going to do is we made it bigger, but it's still on top of the logo, right? You still can't see the logo. We got to adjust the layers. So what we do is we go up here and we go up to, and we click position. And in position, you see all of these different options, right? This is where you go over here to this position where you see arrange and you see layers. Well, this white box is on the top layer, as you can see, because the forward and to front are completely faded out. So if you want to send something to the complete back to be like the last layer, then you would click to the back. In this one, we just want to click backwards. When you click backwards, it just goes one layer at a time back. So we clicked backwards, it's behind the logo. Fantastic. However, now the logo and the white box aren't lined up. Now you could do this by sight. I don't recommend it. So what you can do is you can highlight both of them, or if you want to click on things specifically, you click on like the background image, hold your shift button, and then click on the logo in front, and that's going to highlight both of them. And so what you're going to do there is you're going to click, because we want this to be centered, right? We're going to click this center button right here, and that's going to center it horizontally, just like this. Sorry, vertically, vertically. My apologies. And then from there, you can do it middle, so it does it horizontally. And then from here, once that's done, you can group them together. And so it's one entity together, because if you notice, all of it together is not centered to the page, and I want it to be centered to the page. But the same way where you have it grouped, you can click on the ungroup so that you can do that really easily. But we want to center it to the entire page. Well, now we can, because when you click on one specific item in Canva and you want to center it to the page, you just click on that one item, then you click back on the position where you're at, and you can tell that this is not centered on the page at all. So we can click on center and it will center it up. And then you click on the middle button and it'll center it horizontally as well, just like that. See? And you can tell that it's centered on the page because when you go back to position, middle and center are grayed out. Those aren't options anymore to use because it's already done for you. So then, whoops. So then this is what it looks like. It's nice and centered, cute little thing. So there we have it. However, there's another option that is more your sticker style type. And this works in some situations. This doesn't always work in all situations. But going back to just the logo, we can go and we can click on edit. And when you click on edit, this screen will pop up. This is a cool screen because it gives you a lot of different options to make adjustments. And these are just things you have to play with. But if you scroll all the way down, you click this see all button down at the bottom under shadows. So when you click that, this is what pops up. You have options for creating a glow, a drop shadow, outlines, curved. Now, I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing these on logos, but they're great on other things. In this case, what we're going to do is we're going to click on outline, right? And this is what it looks like at first. And you're like, Brea, come on. This is not what I wanted, right? But no, what we're going to do is we're going to click over where it says the size button and move it to 100. And then it completely engulfs it with white and it makes it look like it's kind of like a sticker. So you can use this on top of a photo or on top of something like that, and you'd still see it, but it's not a square or a circle or something like that around your logo. So it depends on the type of design you want and the look that you're going for. So that's another option. But we're going to continue on with the branding kit and showing you why it's important how to use it. So I went ahead as if we're putting together a thing for conservation partners, right? And so I did a few things for you. And Hannah and Jamie are going to go over some of these specific things at the next one, going into the nitty gritty on how to use different things. So that's why I'm kind of flying by on some of them, right? But what we're going to do is we're going to go and we're going to click on brand again. We're going to go into those conservation partners, and then all of those logos that we uploaded before pop up. So all we need to do to add them to here is we just click on them. We click on each individual one, they pop up, and you go through and you size them, right? You make them smaller, bigger, whatever. If you're putting them on something like this, we want to make them about the same size. And so that's exactly what I did. I put them in, but I just tossed them kind of anywhere. I have them in the order I want them to be in, but they're not centered with each other or anything like that. So what we want to do is highlight these three. And again, you can use the shift button to do that. I highlighted these three because I want them to be in the top row. I click that position again. Ooh, hang on. I click that position again, and then I click this middle button right over here. And that gets them aligned in the same line. But here's the problem. Indiana Agriculture and NACD logo, they're too close to each other on the right. IDAM is too far on the left, right? We want to make sure that those are spaced evenly. And so the way to do that, because they're still highlighted, is you go down here to the space evenly and you click on that horizontal. And what that will do is that will space everything out evenly on the stuff that you've created. So generally what I would do in this case, I would do that to this top row, make it a group, do it to this bottom row, make sure everything is like aligned with each other and spaced evenly, make it another group, and then do the same thing and make sure that everything is spaced out correctly vertically. So that's how the evenly spaced and all of that is really helpful to make your stuff look balanced, make it look nice and clean. So I know I've already been talking about design, but let's get into the nitty gritty on some of the foundations and elements of design really quick. All right. All right. So look at this. Now, this is something that was previously done with a newsletter that I did not have my hands on yet. When you look at this, it's got a lot of great information in it, right? But it's hard to read. Like you look at it and you're like, I don't really want to take the time to read that. It feels very congested. The photos are in weird spots. Text is really close to photos. There's just a lot going on, right? You can easily read the header. That's about it. So what happens is it doesn't keep up with that simplicity model, and you want to keep your stuff simple. Now, there's a way to do more what I call chaotic designs, but as long as they're balanced chaotic designs and you've got that hierarchy of things, it works. And I'll show you what one of those looks like. So in here, we want to make sure simplicity, less clutter equals a stronger message, right? It's, avoid too much text, make sure things are focused on one main idea. Goodness gracious, white space is your friend. Say it with me. White space is your friend. Don't put text too close to images. And this is the difference that it makes, right? White space and making sure that you have headers and stuff that you can read, photos that aren't too close to text. There's all of that good white space, even spacing, text that you can read, right? It makes a really big difference from the left to right. On the left, you're like, yeah, okay, I would be happy to sit down and read this. The other one, you're like, the one on the right gives me anxiety. Right? It's that whole thing too, though, but like that's me as a designer, but even other people subconsciously, you kind of go like, I'm not sure, like this seems like a lot. So design matters in people picking something up and wanting to read it or continue to read it or not. So it matters. And then we go on to hierarchy, right? You want to make sure that you have the right hierarchy when you're doing your design. So the biggest text is the most important. So right here, you've got your header. Headline should stand out first. So when you see this, the first thing you're drawn to is the headline. It's colored using different fonts for the different types of headers. You've got your header, subheader, and all of that. And then using size, boldness, and placement intentionally so that people can see the different things and you can get your stuff across. All right. So then we're going to go on to text style. And you ask, why is this important? So if you've noticed, justified text has always been really popular. Now, justified text is the stuff that you see in your newspapers. It's the stuff that goes edge to edge. It gives beautiful, solid lines of text, right? Like it looks great. It's awful. Please stop using it. It's awful. And if you can look into this, you can see all of these spacing issues. And there's no way that you can fix that if you're on justified text. And on the other side of that, if you're trying to reach out to people, if you're reaching out to anybody with a disability such as dyslexia, ADHD, autism, or anything like this, justified text is extremely difficult to read. And subconsciously, they'll just stop. I've done this where I've been reading something and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I'm done, right? Because the spacing isn't even. It's harder on my eyes. It's harder on my brain to process. So just using left aligned text, which is what's on the left side of the page. That line is on the left side of the page. Right aligned with the lines on the right side of the page, and center text is really what you want to go for, unless you're doing a legal document, and then that's where justified text. Again, it looks beautiful when you're creating something in justified text and you've got those nice even lines on the edge, but it makes it very, very difficult to read long term. So, and then we're going to talk about consistency. Sorry, I just one right after the other. So when you're creating stuff for your SWCD or your organization, you want to make sure that in the designs that you're creating, not all of them, but that you have a consistent branding. So you're using your logo, you're doing all of that kind of stuff. But in a design that I'm making, so like our newsletter or something like that, I'm using the same fonts for the body of the text, same colors, that kind of stuff, branding style, so that people know and recognize, oh, it's us. For instance, we have an event called Pay Dirt, right? This is a flyer I created for our Pay Dirt. We have one in the spring, we have one in the fall. So in creating stuff, right, I'm making sure, because this one's the spring, this one's the fall, that there's consistency, right? Our logo is the same. We're using similar fonts, colors, all of that. So then when people look at it, they're like, oh, yeah, we know who that is. That's Elkhart County SWCD, right? So in all of our branding stuff, we're using not the exact same stuff, but stuff that is similar enough that people recognize what it is. This is what I mean when I say consistent branding, same font, same colors, that kind of stuff. So, in your logo, right? So I'm using this green. I'm not going to use a bright pink on this. You know what I mean? Like it's just not going to work. Consistent branding is important. So I know I talked about text alignment. We're going to talk about page alignment. And we talked about it a little bit already, that white space around and that kind of stuff. But you want to make sure that you keep your text, your images, and your graphics all lined up instead of placing them randomly. So what I mean by that is like, if the logo is up here on the left side or whatever, right, it wouldn't look aligned, it wouldn't look balanced. You want to make sure that you're aligning things with intention, not just tossing something on because you think it should go there or whatever. You want to make sure things work and are balanced. And a balanced layout helps the viewer's eye and clean spacing. All in all, if it looks too messy or is hard to read, they're going to stop and you've lost them. You're not going to be able to give them the information that you want to give them because you've lost them. So I'll show you an example of that. So, say I had the logo up over here, right? There's not consistent spacing in here. I didn't do anything with the bottom, but there's not consistent spacing. This is over to the left, right? It looks discombobulated. It's not centered. Whereas over here, you're like, oh yeah, no, this looks right. This looks balanced. And it invites the person in to read it. It doesn't seem chaotic. This seems a little bit more chaotic. So this is one of those that I was talking about where you have a design that's more chaotic, but it works because it's done with intention and it's balanced and you can read everything, right? You don't have anything that's too dark with dark text, all of that. The stuff that has the most information that needs to be read is all on a lighter background. There's enough contrast, right? So it's chaotic, but you can read all of it and your eyes are going over the whole thing. So you can do more chaotic, but with intention. But let's not start here, okay? So going into color and contrast. Colors to use and colors not to use. So colors create emotion and mood, right? So each color means a different thing, and that will actually be on the next slide. And contrast improves readability, just like back here, right? We've got the dark background and the white, right? It's readable because there's a higher contrast. Avoid the hard to read combinations. So your red on green and vice versa. We don't use these for a few different reasons. I know it's, thinking Christmas time, you want to use the red and green. Well, your friends that are colorblind can't read this. So there's a large majority of the people that you're trying to reach that won't be able to read what you're making or what you're trying to tell them because you're using red on green and green on red. So avoid doing that. This is a yes because it's a dark background with a light colored text in a header sort of way. This is still no because it's a darker background with darker text on it and it's hard to read, right? You want that high contrast like this one down here. Now, this one that says no, it's not because it has a dark background with white contrast. This is a great contrast. It says no because you want to make sure you don't have a dark background with a lot of text on it because it's a lot for somebody to read. Your eyes get tired, your brain gets tired, and it says, all right, we're done reading, right? Avoid having backgrounds with, the graphics and a light colored font, right? Text on top of it. And then something like this that says maybe because it would be better if you used a darker color on this rather than a lighter color to make it stand out a little bit more. Again, that contrast. And then this is something you can refer back to later. All colors have meanings. And so when you're creating something, you want to make sure that you're creating the right kind of ambiance for that design, the right message for it, rather than just like, oh, I like purple, so let's use purple, right? You want to use color with intention. And then going back into text, your typography. So you want to limit your font choices when you're designing something. So you generally limit it to 1 to 3 fonts. Sometimes you can get away with more if it's necessary. It really just depends on the design, but generally I stick to 1 to 3. For instance, like here, you've got this header. This is 1. You have the subheader, which is a 2nd font, and then you have all the rest, which is your 3rd font. Readability matters a lot more than fancy fonts. So this is that fancy decorative font that we have in our logo. And if you can't read this, it says this is hard to read for anything other than a short header, right? This is a pretty font, but it doesn't work for a lot of text. It works for small things, like this, right? You can make it work for stuff like this, not necessarily a full subheader or something like that, or a long header. You just have to be careful on how you use it. And then if you didn't know, there's lots of different kinds of text styles, right? You have your serif. That's the easy one. That's the text with the feet on it right here. This is what we call the little feet on the text. That's a serif. That's what you use. Like if you read the newspaper or anything like that, the serifs are in a lot of the newspapers. They used to be in a lot of the magazines, that kind of stuff. They are fantastic for printed text documents or for headers on digital designs. Do not use a serif font as text on a digital design, like on your website or, something like that. Don't use a serif on there with a lot of body of text. It hurts the eyes, it hurts the brain. People stop reading, they disengage. Only use sans serifs for those. Sans serifs are the text without feet, right? And this is best for digital and cleaner on print. So a lot of companies have switched over from a serif font over to a sans serif font when they're creating stuff because it's easier to read and it's cleaner. So that one's just a matter of preference, but always remember serif for things that are being printed out, sans serif always for things that are not. But even on digital, you can use a serif font as a header, just not other stuff. And then we've got our script and decorative right here. This bad boy. It goes great. It can go great for headers and special text, but avoid using a lot of it like we saw in the other one. Make sure others can read what it says, not just you. You already know what it's supposed to say. Your brain's going to fill in the information. If you're unsure about a font, take it to somebody in your office, give them no context and say, can you read this? What does this say? And if they can't read it, then you might want to consider changing the font. Just to kind of let you to show a point in this as far as serif versus sans serif. This was a digital newsletter that gets sent out weekly, and I think it's NACD, and they used to do it as a serif font right here. This is digital. It's really hard to read. If you've been around for a while and you've seen their stuff, you've noticed the change that happened. It was kind of hard to read a lot because this is digital, right? They switched it over to a sans serif and it's so much easier to read. You're like, yeah, no, I want to read that. Let me go ahead and continue reading that because it's a long newsletter. So it makes a difference. All right. So going and talking about text. So in Canva, if you want to change your text or your fonts and all that kind of stuff, you go up on this text button over here on the left. This is what's going to come up. Now, Canva does a cool thing. They give you an option if you want to add the header, add a subheader, add your regular text. So then you don't have to deal with making things bigger, smaller, any of that kind of stuff. You can also add your own text box. But if you scroll down to the bottom, they have font combinations that you can test out and play with. If you're not quite sure how, what kind of pairing you want, you can browse all of the different font combination stuff that they have and maybe test out one of those. But if you're like, no, I want to go rogue, I want to do my own thing, right? Which I do all the time. You click on this text box here, woo, and it'll add a text box. And it'll just come up with your regular fonts. What you do is you want to click on that. We're just going to use this one. Click on it. And what you're going to do is up here, which we've kind of already seen a little bit, is this little menu bar. And this is how you adjust the fonts and all that kind of stuff. So here's your size. This is change your text color if you want something to be bold, italics, underline, strike through. This bad boy right here makes it so that everything in there is all capitalized or all lowercase. This makes life a whole lot easier when you're in a design and you're like, man, you know what? I want that whole thing in caps. You just click this button and it makes it all in caps. This adjusts it if you want it to be left aligned, center, right aligned, justified, all of that. Bullet points. This T with the arrow is for if you want your letters to be spaced out more, or if you want them to be closer together, or if you want your text lines, like when you're doing sentences and it goes over to the next line, if you want those narrower or further away. And then this is your transparency, and then you have your effects and all that kind of stuff. So In this case, we're going to click on the Brittany. And when you click on the Brittany, this is where your font name would be. This one's called Brittany. It brings all of this up over on the side. And you have, it shows you the fonts that are in the document already, recommended ones, and then once you've recently used them all the way down. But it also has this cool thing too. Actually, if we go back, you can see it has some, if you want a different kind of font, like something specific, like a display font or something like that, you can click on one of these that they have pre-made, or you're like, nah, I want to go rogue. I want to type in a different type of one. So like handwriting or a condensed font or something like that. You can write that in here and it'll bring all of them up. And that's how you change that. So now we talked about the different types of fonts. And you're like, okay, cool, but how do I pair them together? Because we don't use just one font in most designs. We generally use two or whatever. So great pairings of fonts. You have your sans serif, which are the ones without feet, and your script and decorative fonts. Those work really well together. Your sans serif and your serif fonts right here, those work really well together. The ones that don't work well together, but again, there are always exceptions to rules. There always are when it comes to design, is right here. Your decorative font with a serif with a decorative. It just doesn't really work. Like you might look at that and be like, that's kind of cool, but you want to try to avoid using a serif with a decorative font. It works a little bit better with this one, but most of them it doesn't. So kind of steer clear of those. But your serifs and your sans serifs work great together. All right, we're at the end. I flew, quote unquote, through that. Sorry for talking so fast. However, it is Q&A time. So Hannah, Jamie, what you got? What's coming in on the chats?
So most of the chats that we've gotten have not been graphic design questions. So we've been handling those where we can. So please feel free to submit more questions. We do have some from the pre-survey that we can get started on.
Okay.
So the first question that we have is, are there best management practices when it comes to graphic design? And if so, can we get a quick reference sheet for that?
Best management practice. I mean, all of the best management practices for design is everything that I just went through, like your basic elements and all of that. So,
okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then the next question that we have is best ways to get started from a blank white screen. Just finding the best place to start and not get overwhelmed.
Which I guess I will add. That's kind of what we're doing next session. So I know that you guys are probably hoping for that, but we'll take what we learned with Brea today. In our next session, we'll actually kind of start from the ground up, where you guys will see me create a template or use a template to show you how to turn it into something that could be beneficial for you guys. And then,
is there anything that you would want to add there, Brea, in terms of getting started?
No, because I was just going to say that Hannah was going to be doing that next time. So
perfect. Okay, and then the last question that we have is less graphic design focused, but is very fundamental for getting started with Canva. So just help getting staying organized with projects as they save and share different versions. So maybe what you do for organization, Brea.
do you mean in the sense of all of the different like flyers and that kind of stuff that you're doing for one project, or all of the different ways that I keep different things separate, I guess?
It's plural projects. So I think how you keep them separate and organized on your end.
Okay. So I utilize folders that Hannah talked about the last time in keeping everything in folders. I also make sure that I name all of my Canva files so that I can go and search for them easier, but putting them in folders. And then I learned a whole new feature a few months ago that in the same document, you can do different sizes of elements. So that actually helps keep me way more organized now. So I can go in, if I'm creating something for pay dirt, I can have all the different sizes and all of the different elements in one big long document, which Hannah's actually going to show you, Hannah or Jamie is going to show you how to do that. That's kind of how I keep that stuff organized in Canva. Now on my regular computer, that's a whole different story. I've got folders upon folders upon folders upon folders of where things are at to keep things organized.
Thank you, Brea. Yeah, I love the resize within the same project tool so much. Highly recommend it.
Game
Okay.
changer.
It really is. Okay, the next question we have is, with all of the Instagram sizes, is there one that you like to use best for Instagram?
Yeah, so actually in Canva, they have preset, your like your Instagram vertical. Square is great for Instagram as well. It translates to Facebook now, but they add edges to it. And so what works on both of them pretty well is horizontal. Horizontal works really well on Instagram and on Facebook if you're looking to cross. But if you're looking for just Instagram, like specific Instagram, they have a vertical format and then a square. Those are the two I'd recommend for Instagram.
Thank you. I think that okay.
Yeah.
We have another question. Do you post straight from Canva to social media or do you download first?
I do not. I download. I don't use a third party for anything to post my stuff. I go and I schedule it through Meta Business Suite and then on our LinkedIn page because the algorithm, when you post from a third party algorithm on Facebook and stuff, doesn't always pick things up because it knows you're using a third party. And so sometimes your stuff doesn't get picked up as much or as easily. So no, I don't post directly from Canva, but that's just I've been doing it for one way for a really long time. And so that's just me in doing that. I'm not sure if anyone else on the call has experience exporting from Canva directly onto socials.
I also am a downloader.
I'm a downloader as well.
Yeah.
I also like when I download it, I look at it as well. Sometimes I'll print it out and double check things. And so if you send it directly to socials on that, it makes it harder to fix your mistakes or things like that before it actually gets scheduled out, where you can like go and you can look at it, double check everything. And then, yeah. And it's easier to, I'm not sure about Canva, but I don't know if you can schedule posts on Canva like you can on Meta Business Suite. So that's also why I download stuff. And it makes it easier for me to keep track of it. So if we have like our MS4 coordinators and stuff like that want to see all of the different work that we're doing, I have it all in a file folder. It will soon be on a file folder on Google Drive, so I can just send the link to them, which is easier than sending them a link onto Canva, which they would have to have a subscription for. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Brea. And we'll also cover more about Meta Business Suite incidentally during the social media session, which is not this upcoming one on July 7th, but the one after that. So definitely stay tuned there. This next question is another one that we'll likely cover during that, but Brea, in case you have anything you'd like to respond with now, do these guidelines have ADA requirements in mind? And then is there a quick reference for that?
I guess I don't understand the question. Can you read it again, Jamie, the first part?
Yeah, do these guidelines have ADA requirements in mind?
So ADA requirements are yes and no. So the difference with ADA requirements, like if you're uploading a photo onto your website, you need to make sure that you use your alternate text. That's how that's ADA compliant. So I believe there is an option or a possibility to do that in Canva to make it ADA compliant. If you decide to like have a presentation on there and then you can turn it into a public link and like people can go through it themselves. I'm pretty sure that they have a way to make that ADA compliant. But yeah, I hope that answered the question.
Yes, Rachel, if you need more clarification, please let us know. Okay.
Bria, there's been a lot of questions. The branding option is actually not free necessarily. They can only do colors for their free account. We were kind of sleuthing around because we had a lot of questions saying that they were not being able to access the like brand logo with their free account. But for anybody, I see a couple questions that are just asking like what other things are going to limit them if they only have the free account. A good way to see that is when you're looking through Canva, if you see a little crown anywhere near a tool or an element or a text, that means that is only available during, if you're in a premium account, whether that's pro, business, teams, whatever it is, if you're paying. If anything that doesn't have a crown is what you can access during your free account, which is why we're kind of encouraging if you do work for a nonprofit and you can try to apply for that nonprofit status to get that free pro account, please reach out to like either one of us or Amy work. She's had some luck helping districts get that through. So yeah, but we'll try to next time when we meet and we go through the templates, I will kind of point out some of the things that you can only do with pro versus free. So you guys have a better look into that world of Canva.
I'm going to add to that, Hannah, one of the biggest things with comparison of the free rather than the pro is, for one, you don't have access to as many assets. So that background remover and that kind of stuff. But the biggest thing that I see an issue is when you're downloading your stuff or any of it, you're not going to get it at 100% quality. They're only going to let you download it at 80% quality. That means that anything that you create on Canva to use online, print, or anything, it's all going to be fuzzy. All of it's going to be fuzzy. So that's one thing to keep in mind, like, is that like you're losing a lot of quality if you stay on just the free one.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
They get you.
Yeah, they do.
It says, how long, Amy, this might be a question for you. How long does it normally take to find out if you qualify for a free pro account via the nonprofit? She said she applied or they applied for it after the last session and still have not heard yes or no. Do you have any insight on that?
Boy, it's been such a long time since I've done that. I feel like it was a couple of weeks when I did that a couple of years ago. Yeah, that's the best I can say. I know you find out through email, and I even think they sent me an email for some more clarification at one point. So I don't know the answer to how long that is now. If there are any districts on here who have done that recently, more recent than I have, let us know.
I would guess that even if you did not qualify for it, that they would let you know that you did not qualify. So you should hear back from them one way or the other. I hope that they wouldn't just leave you hanging.
Yeah. Maybe if it's in spam or one of the other filters, maybe. Okay. One of the other questions that we have is advice on creating new color schemes that are not based on logo colors.
So I believe in Canva that they have like color swatch ideas, but I could be wrong on that. Of different types of colors that you could test out if you want to or do search. You can do search online for like color palettes that work well with each other and that kind of stuff. If you're looking for something like that, you can download that picture, upload it to Canva, and then it'll give you those colors, or you can use that dropper and click on it to get those colors. Let me see really quick if, I mean, they have a default colors and solid colors and gradients and all of that, but I'm not seeing, yeah, I'm not seeing where they have like color palette options together, but I would say search online to see different like color palette options.
Thank you, Brea. I think that we are caught up on chat questions. Yeah, if anybody has others, feel free to throw them out there. Question coming. Okay. We have one in the wings.
Yeah, we're having one loading. 1 second, guys.
Well, I will say, just as a reminder, we are and have been recording this session, and I will get it posted on the website in the next day or two. And it will be there to view again or to share with others.
Thank you, Amy. And we got our question. So if somebody downloads a document, so they create the document on Canva, download it to save on their computer, can they then go in to that document on their computer, I think on another software, and edit it?
So I haven't actually tried to do this, but I would imagine that if you downloaded it as a PDF, because it keeps those layers, you can adjust it as long as when you download it as a PDF, there's a button in there that you can ask it to make it one layer. So if you keep that unchecked and download it, you should still be able to make those adjustments depending on what font you used in Canva.
Does that make sense, Kelly? Do we know if the document we have in Publisher on our computer is still accessible? Yes. So Publisher, as long as you still have an active subscription with Microsoft, will be available through October 13th, I want to say. And at that point, the program will no longer be available. But until then, you should be able to access your Publisher files. To convert those for Canva, we would recommend saving them as PDFs and then uploading them to Canva to edit on there. Your files, they won't disappear from your computer, but you will not be able to open them anymore if they are not saved outside of the Publisher file format. Yes, agreed. For the benefit of the recording, wow, what a disaster.
Hence this training, Kelly.
Yeah.
All right. Is that it then? No other questions?
No, when we're right at time, so it's perfect.
Good. Yeah. Look at us timing wise. Woo woo. So I hope you guys can join us again on July 7 is our next one. Creating publications in Canva. And make sure you register so you can receive that link, and then you'll also get the reminder email 1 day prior. All that can be found on the IASWCD website. So until then, happy 4th of July. Thanks, everyone.